Welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports, and today we got a good one. We got Carmine Guerriero coming on to the podcast from Montreal. He's a former professional goalie for in the East Coast Hockey League for South Carolina Stingrays, Brampton Beasts, Idaho Steelheads, Manchester Monarchs, and the Atlanta Gladiators. He played over in France, in Brest. He was an NCAA Division I hockey goalie at University of Alabama Huntsville, and he's currently a goaltending coach at St. Lawrence University. So this is going to be a good one. Can't wait to have Carmine on. So let's get into this episode. Yo, welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. I'm Jack, and today we have a very special guest. We have Carmine Guerriero, who is a retired professional goalie after he spent time in the ECHL, in the East Coast Hockey League with South Carolina Stingrays, Brampton Beasts, Idaho Steelheads, Manchester Monarchs, and the Atlanta Gladiators, and then played over in France for his last season. And he also played 4 years of NCAA hockey with University of Alabama Huntsville. He is also now currently the goalie coach at St. Lawrence University. Welcome to the show, Carmine Guerriero. Carmine, how are you?
Hey, Jack. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, no problem. It's gonna be a fun one. Can't wait for it.
Yeah, let's get it.
Yeah, so can you give the viewers a little background, like why you started playing hockey, when you became a goaltender, like what drove you to becoming a goalie coach and pursue a pro career as a goaltender?
Yeah, I got a pretty long story, but just to start off, I started playing hockey when I was like, I think 3 years old. It was big in my family. Everybody watched it. So obviously, me being from Montreal, there was Montreal Canadiens game on TV whenever they played. So from a young age, I enjoyed watching the sport and I started playing it. And I was a forward up until probably turned like, I think it was like six. So I probably played like 3 years of forward. Um, and funny enough, the reason why I became a goalie was because on my youth team, we would rotate. Everybody would take a turn to go in net, and my father was the coach of my team, and it just so happened that on my team nobody wanted to be goalie, and to be completely fair, like I didn't want to be either. I was having fun, just skating around the rink, and but my dad being the coach, he had to put somebody in, and he sacrificed me. So I I put on the little gear there, and kind of, it started becoming a reoccurring thing because nobody else wanted to go in net. So um, I kind of, I guess I was pretty good at it. And then the next thing you know, I had the full goalie gear on, and then my dad's like, well, you know, this is going to be you. Plus my dad he idolized Patrick Ross. So, it was kind of like, I don't know, it all felt, it all came together. Um, and then I played my youth hockey back home. I never made the AA team. I was never I guess a top goalie. I was always made like the second tier team, if you want. Um, Literally my whole life up until I got to like, I think 16 years old was the first time that I made AA. But then again, at that level in midget, there's AAA. So I obviously, again, didn't make AAA. I made AA. And, you know, just always being cut my whole life. I was always like that last guy in, and just almost there, but not quite. It played a toll on me because like I wanted it so bad, and I wanted to become a professional hockey player and all that stuff. Um, that when I was 17 years old, so the year after, I just quit hockey. It was weird, but I was just sick of it. Like I was just sick of not making the team for whatever reason, whether it was because I was small or because I wasn't good enough or whatever the reason was. Sometimes there was no reason for me being cut. And I remember this one time in particular. I could tell you the story later, but um, anyways, I ended up quitting hockey and had started working for the Montreal Canadiens, oddly enough. So that's funny. So I was working in the marketing department with a family friend. He got me in, and I started meeting people, obviously, working at the games and stuff. And one day we were having a coaches convention, and the Montreal Canadiens goalie coach at the time, who's Pierre Grew, was running like these drills on the ice in front of, 10,000 coaches in the Bell Center. And for some reason, I can't remember what had happened that day, but it was like either Carey Price or Yaroslav Halak, like one of the two that was supposed to be there couldn't make it. And for some reason, I had my goalie gear in my car, and I swear to God, I hadn't strapped the pads on for 2 years. I had in my car because the night before we had rented the ice with my friends, and my buddy wanted to go net, so I brought my gear. But it just so happened that the gear stayed in my car. Anyways, pretty crazy how this all came together. But I ended up, my boss was like, Carm, could you run home and get your gear? I was like, I haven't skated in 2 years. There's no way I'm getting on the ice in front of 10,000 people, like doing like goalie drills, And he's like, you got to do it. I was like, you know what? It's pretty crazy, but I have my gear in my car. Maybe somebody else will wear my gear and go on. And anyways, everybody was like, Carm, you got to go. You got to go. So it's like, all right, fine. So I freaking put the pads on, first time in 2 years. And I get on the ice and I meet Pierre for the first time, the goalie coach. And it's funny because I was at his house like last week. We were just talking about this. And so I get on the ice, start doing the drills, and I'm feeling like I feel like I haven't missed a beat. Like I'm, kind of like riding a bike,
Yeah.
And then after the practice, Pierre comes in the room. We start chatting, and he's like, "So where do you play?" And I was like, "I don't play." And he's like, "Come on, like, what do you mean you don't play?" I was like, "No, I swear I don't play hockey." And he's like, "Are you kidding me? Like, you got a bunch of talent. Like, you should be playing." And I was like, "Well, like, what's the point of playing? At this point, like, I either want to make it to pro or I don't want to play. Like I'll play for fun. I don't have to do this competitively." And anyways, he started talking about the NCAA, which I knew nothing about. He started talking about junior A hockey in Ottawa or in Ontario, which I also knew nothing about. And all this to say is like that when that happened, and like it was around probably February, March, I was like, okay, if an NHL goalie coach is telling me this, then maybe I should give it one last go. So I that whole summer from March to training camp in August, that's all I did. I had my dad thought it was a terrible idea because he was like, "You're wasting your time. You're gonna play for 2 years. You're not gonna make a junior A team. Like, are you crazy?" Like I had like a lot of people telling me I was crazy. A lot of people not believing in me. Even close relatives, and I ended up going to camp, and I made the team in Hawkesbury, which was nuts. So, anyways, I wanted to share that because that part of my story is, I feel, really important for kids who aspire to make it to the next level to understand that it doesn't matter what anybody says. It doesn't matter like how the odds are stacked against you. Do you have a clear vision of what you want, and are you willing to put in the work? Like, that's at the end of the day, that's what's going to get you to your goals. So I just wanted to throw that in there. And anyway, so I played 2 years in Hawkesbury and then got a scholarship. It was weird though, because I had gotten I was committed to Denver University after my second year. And I got a phone call in like June from the NCAA saying that I didn't have enough. I was missing one core credit
Ooh.
to be eligible to play in Division One hockey. And so Denver called me, the coach at the time, Jim Montgomery, those guys, Guasdecki, that whole staff was like, hey, we don't have time to like do an appeal and all this. I mean, school starts in like a month, you know. So what what we're gonna do is go ahead with the guy that we committed for next year. Just bring him in a year early, uh, and we'll try and see, if there's a team that's willing to appeal. And the reason why this happened was because I went to CEGEP in Quebec, and it's kind of like pre-university, but my courses were titled in French. So some of them, I guess, they didn't, I guess that one course like didn't transfer
Yeah.
or whatever. So it was like a bit of a headache, but I got a call from UAH, and both of those coaches were two Denver alum. So I guess, they needed a goalie. So they got in the Denver coaching staff got in touch with them, and then they gave me a call and were like, hey, if we like appeal and get you through, then will you, and this is Mike Corbett, my head coach at the time. He was like, if I get you through this appeal, if it works, then will you commit to us? Because obviously he's like, am I going to do this if you're just going to go elsewhere? So I didn't care. I was like, yeah, of course. Like I want to play Division One hockey. I don't care where I play it. So that's how I ended up at UAH and had, 4 years there, and then went on to play in the East Coast Hockey League that first year, which was, you could argue I played. I mean, I only played like 8 games that year. It was a freaking I don't even know how many games I played. 7? I don't know.
Yeah, I think something like that.
Yeah. So it was crazy. Like, I mean, on 5 different teams, I probably spent more time on an airplane and in a taxi than with actual teammates that year. But yeah, it was a cool learning experience. Like, just some more adversity. Not that I hadn't seen it my whole life. I mean, I was used to it. Like, it was fun. Kept getting traded, kept getting cut. You know how it works. Guys get sent down, and then you're like the odd man out, which, whatever, it is what it is. So that kind of made me really want to, uh, go somewhere the year after where I knew I was going to play. And, you know, quite literally the first phone call I got after my season in the East Coast Hockey League, it was a coach in France, and he's like, look, like, I know it's not the top league, but if we win the league, then we'll move up and you'll be my guy for the following years and all this stuff. We're going to have a great team. And I was like, whatever. Yeah, sure. Like, if that means that I'm going to play every game, then I'll do that. And if we could move up, then, perfect. If not, like, I'll just go somewhere else the following year. But I ended up going there. We finished first place. So it was pretty cool going from, playing like 7 games a year before, not winning a game. I don't think I did because, I didn't really play 7 games. I was getting put into games. I think I played like 3 games. uh, and so, to finishing first, winning a bunch and having a really good season, that was fun. Unfortunately, we got beat in the playoffs by the team who won it all. But
That's always the worst.
yeah, it was like, the round just before the finals, and we ran into a team that was just like hot. Like, they finished the year hot, and they were, I don't know, they beat us. Like, they beat us in, I think, because it was best of 5s there, the playoffs, and yeah, they beat us 3-1. It was like pretty crazy. Nobody expected it. But I mean, they were good, and they ended up sweeping the finals. They won 3 games in a row. They won, so they're a good team. Kudos to them. But yeah, and then life happens, and you kind of have to prioritize. And at the time, I kind of I sat down with my girlfriend, and we she had a cool opportunity out of school to start work, and I didn't really want to do a long distance relationship because it freaking it's hard. Like, I
It
mean,
sucks.
yeah, it's not fun for anyone. And I kind of analyzed the situation, and I just didn't. I wasn't where I wanted to be in my career. Like, I had a goal in mind, and that was to be, in the American Hockey League or playing in a top league in Europe. And obviously that it wasn't happening. Although, like, I could have had some pretty cool opportunities after that year in France. I just like decided to start working, make some real money, start life, kind of, I guess you could say. I don't know. So yeah, I was just eager to get a change. But that's pretty much my whole career in a nutshell there.
Yeah, so you faced a lot of adversity. So like what drove you to keep coming back? Like you got cut from double A, you got cut from triple A. What drove you to keep coming back and just keep working at it?
At a young age, I would say that what drove me was to prove people wrong. That's what was. I was also very, very short when I was young, so being a goalie and being short doesn't mix. I I was, you're always viewed as as an undersized goalie. And the thing is, a lot of people that don't know goaltending will automatically say, well, you need a big guy because it covers most of the net. And when you're playing in the minors, youth hockey, then you know dads coaching the team don't know any better, right? It's just
Yeah.
like it's like the old way of thinking where, like, you have to be big in order to be good, kind of thing. Um, but yeah, like, I think that's what drove me at first, was just proving people wrong. And later on in my career, it was, or when I wanted to start playing again and get into junior A, that what drove me there was proving to myself that I could make it there. It kind of took away, like the proving people wrong, and it I kind of changed it to, like, proving myself right. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, so then you went to junior A, you played in Hawkesbury
Yeah.
with the Hawks in the CCHL, which is a Central Canada Hockey League. And you played really good with your time spent in Hawkesbury. So like what was your experience like playing in Hawkesbury, and like you played in 107 games in 2 seasons. It's like what was it like playing so many games?
Yeah. It was like it was a shock, to be honest, because my intentions were to make a team and fight for that number one spot eventually, but I didn't think it was going to come so early. And the reason it did was I I was playing good off the bat, and my coach was kind of like the type of guy, you know, whoever whoever was playing, whoever was winning was gonna play, and I was just such in, like, a good state of mind where, like, it was all, like, positive thinking. I was just happy that I had made the team. I was proud of myself, and it kind of just that all that energy kind of flowed into my game where I was just, like, playing really well. I don't know. And, like, probably 2 or 3 weeks in, I kind of, like, took over the number one spot. And then, you know, I think I ended up playing like 40 something games that first year, which was which was a lot because I hadn't played for 2 years. So but it was good. Like, I mean, I got ready for it like the whole summer, right? Like,
Yeah.
I was getting ready to eventually take over at some point. Like, I knew I would. I just didn't know when it would come, and obviously it came a lot earlier than I thought. And then the next season was good too. I got a chance to play, like, I don't know, I played like like 50 something games that year. And, I think that organization that gave me that chance, um, the general manager, Ian Henderson, and the coaching staff, Dustin Traylon and Sean Anderson, those guys literally gave me an opportunity, and they had a good team. They put a good team in place, and it really facilitated my transition from not playing to playing. So I was lucky to play with a good team. We had guys that really cared, which was fun.
Yeah, so like you said, you played in 50 games and like 40 games. So you played a lot, obviously. So like, what kept you like stay so strong? Because obviously playing a lot of games will definitely have a toll on your body. So like, what do you do to like prevent like injuries and all that?
I didn't even at the time. I wasn't the type of guy to like train too much, which I would strongly advise against. I wasn't the type of guy to take myself very seriously in stretching, or which again I strongly advise against because it's nonsense. That was just me being like young and dumb, I guess. I didn't necessarily think that would help me out, but I don't know. I was in good spirits, man. Like that's really what it was. I didn't do anything special. I think the fact that I was away from the game for 2 years, and then I came back and then I proved myself right at the very early stage of making that team. And then I proved myself right that I could win a hockey game. And then I proved myself right that I could get a shutout. And then to take over the number one spot. It's like all these things that came into play where I was just happy, and I was loving the game at that point. Like I was freaking in love with playing hockey. So if my coach would tell me that I had a night off, I'd be like rattled about it, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, come on, like I want to play. Like that's the type of drive and determination and hunger that I had at the time. It was quite incredible feeling, to be honest.
Yeah, so your mindset must have been really, really high, and like you were really confident, especially since you wanted at every start, like all goalies do. So like, what was like your mindset like the entire season, and like you just kept playing well,
Yeah.
especially.
Well, first of all, I had a great support group. Like my family and friends were really supportive of me, and that made me feel good. And then obviously you bundle that in with some wins, and coach giving you confidence, and it was like my mindset was just like play hockey, enjoy this moment because I hadn't been playing for 2 years. I was just taking everything in, every game, from like the pregame warmups with my teammates to the bus rides to everything was like I was just so happy to be a part of it. And um, after that, after like being happy, my mindset was like just perform, like all of these guys in the league that are committed to D1 schools, or all the guys that are like the top players in the league or whatever. It's like shut those guys down, like show them that you belong with like the best. And that was it. It was just like me constantly wanting to improve at this point. And naturally, like winning hockey games and winning a championship, that's like long-term goal. um but that's just what my mindset was. Like I just wanted to play, have fun, win, and eventually, maybe long run in the playoffs or even win a championship. Like I don't know. I didn't even know like how to explain. I was just happy to be playing. Is
Yeah, I feel that. Like
Yeah,
for me, like I have like that mindset as well, like positive mindset, and like when I do, like my game is like really good, and then like when your team keeps losing a lot, that's when it gets tough on you. But you just gotta keep thinking positive and positive self talk,
yeah.
and it,
It's
it does help a lot.
it's a huge part of the game. It's a huge part of the game, and I realize now. I keep saying I was in good spirits. Like I really was, because I realized how uh, my mindset was compared to maybe when I was at UAH where we didn't really have much success. In Hawkesbury, we would win a couple games, lose, win, lose. We weren't like a top team by any means, but we could compete with the best teams.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't typically lose to like bottom end teams. We would win those games, but it was like, we would give the top teams a really good run. They had to earn the game to win. So we were very competitive, which that brings a lot of confidence to everyone as a whole, right?
Yeah.
And when you go into a place where you're constantly losing, as you were saying, well, that's becomes difficult on the mind, on your mental, and like, how do you revert that? It's like you said, positive self-talk, and just trust your abilities. At the end of the day, like, you could only control so much, right?
Yeah.
And that's
All the
you stop.
controllables.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah, and last year for when I was playing, like we'd lose, like we weren't that good, but like we'd lose, like we lost like 10 games in a row. It was brutal, but like I just we were giving up like 6 goals a game. Like
yeah,
I just thought about, because like I got some tips from other guys as well, and they're like, just think positive, and like just decrease the number of goals you let in, because like my
yeah.
team wasn't scoring either, so that didn't really help me. So just
Hmm.
like decrease the numbers from like 6 to 5 to 4 to 3 to 2 and so on, and it definitely did help, but like it sucks losing. Let's all be honest here.
Oh, definitely, it definitely does, because you play the at the end of the day, you play the game to win. Like,
Yeah.
that's the feeling, right? That feeling of winning is what you play for. It's fun. Uh, then sure, like, you could have fun during the game, but if you lose the game, that's not fun. Like, no matter what anybody says, like, that's not the end goal. Is not losing.
No.
Um, so it's tough. Like, I truly believe that losing can become a habit, and it becomes a habit not only like, in like physically, like, you lose, but mentally as well. It becomes a habit because now you get into this mindset where, my team is not scoring, and I've had this exact um, you know thinking when I was in UAH. My team wasn't scoring goals. I was getting peppered every game. You know, they were tough games to play in, but there was times where it was like almost feels like everyone's giving up. So you're like, well, screw this. Like, I'm kind of giving up as well. And it's not necessarily intentional, but those are the games that you start getting scored on, like 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, like, you look up at the board and it's like 5-0, and you're like, how is this happening? And then every bad bounce is going in. It just doesn't stop, right? And like, how do you mitigate or minimize that situation? Is like we were talking about, is by going back to the basics, positive self talk, and trust yourself, like, trust your capabilities of like stopping the puck. Like, you have done this a million times before. It's just another game, and you got to get out of that kind of sluggish mentality of like, you're just done with this. So
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it was
it's hard.
definitely, yeah, it is hard. It was definitely like that to start, because like I was like their fifth goalie coming in, so I was like,
Yeah.
I know they only played 10 games before that, so they're already 5 goalies in, but like I stuck around for their next like 30 games, so
Okay. Yeah.
like
So
at
where did
least
you
they
play?
liked me. I played in one of my men's league teams,
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and like men's league can be brutal at times.
Oh, yeah. No defense.
Like I got peppered with 65 shots in a game before, and
Yeah.
it was like 6-0.
Yeah. Oh,
But
I know. It's hard. It becomes really, it's mentally tough. It is.
but I got through it. We came up with some wins here and there, so like
Mhm.
at least we won some.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I think like as a goalie, you got to give your job obviously is to stop the puck naturally, but you could also give your team confidence. Um, and obviously your teammates, which score goals or whatever, could give you confidence as well. Because I mean, it helps, right, for a goalie to see that your team's putting the puck in the net. But you can't control that. What you could control is you stopping the puck. That's at the end of the day. That's all you could do. It's so I don't know. It's so easy to say. Like, and right now I feel like I'm rambling on about this, but it's at the same time I can't stress it enough. Like, it's easy to say, hard to do, but you got to do it.
Yeah.
So,
You just got to do it. And that's your job. Stop the puck.
yeah, and have fun doing it.
Exactly. So let's go on to when you went on to University of Alabama, Huntsville.
Yeah.
So you played 4 years there. You guys were okay. So like you played your first 2 years, you played 21 games and 29 games, I believe. And so like, what was your experience with like playing college hockey, playing on Alabama, Huntsville?
It was good, man. Like, I loved every second of that place. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like, obviously, I was telling you earlier how I was committed to Denver, and in the 4 years that I played in at UAH, like, I think Denver had won like 3 championships or something over the course of that time. So, I mean, obviously, that part is like, it sucks because you see a team that you were committed to having that much success, but at the same time, the friendships and the lessons learned and just the experience playing hockey in the South, like people that I met, like all of that, I wouldn't trade that for anything. I loved every second of it, and it was cool. Like, I truly believe that I needed to go through that in my life to be who I am now today. I needed that, like, how could I say this, like that kind of like that gridiron feel, like, not that spoon fed like
Yeah.
stuff. I needed to go through some times where like everything is earned, you know. Um, so yeah, that was good. I really I can't say anything bad about that place.
Yeah. So what was like the biggest learning curve that you had to do going from juniors to playing college?
Uh, like, we're talking playing, right?
Yeah.
Um, I want to say, because you get ready every summer. Um, I think the biggest jump going from juniors to college was um, probably would be like reading the play, just because stuff happens a lot faster. And the NCAA is a lot of, like, NCAA hockey is a lot of dump and chase, guys running into each other. Like, it's like absolute chaos on the ice. So as a goalie, you kind of got to slow everything down in your head and see everything before it's happening. Which obviously that's hard to do, given the circumstances of NCAA hockey. Like, it's very hard. But I think that's probably the biggest adjustment. The other adjustment would be like playing 2 games a week and practicing every other day. Like, you're practicing like 5 times a week or 4 times a week, playing twice a weekend. It's an odd schedule to get used to, because you have like a bad weekend where you play 2 games where, well, you can't really redeem yourself. It takes you got to wait a full week before
Yeah. That is
you
true.
play again, right? So like
Yeah.
that's tough. I found that very tough.
Yeah. So then your final 2 years, you went 2-4, 2-14, 2-1-8, which I'm sure you would say isn't the best, but I think it's important for goalies and like younger goalies in general that you don't always win games. Like I think So can you explain like how you went through the entire season and kept moving forward despite losing some games?
For my last season in college.
Yeah.
My last season in college was really, really tough because I so backtrack to my second year in Hawkesbury, my 20-year-old year. I turned 21 in February. I ended up playing like 12 games after turning 21. So that took away a full year of eligibility. Um, so I was supposed to have 3 years and then leave. So after my third season, and my third season, I didn't have the season I wanted by any means. It was like, I was just above 900 save percentage, but I was aiming a lot higher because of the season I had the year before. And so uh, myself, along with my family advisor and my coaches, decided that we would kind of make another appeal and see if I could go back for my last season. Well, the NCAA granted my appeal, but the problem was they suspended me for the 12 games that I played as a 21-year-old in juniors. So, I mean, how many games do you play in college? Like 32,
Yeah.
maybe?
Something like that.
So I end up missing the first 12 games of the season. So my first game that I played was in December. So when you go from training all summer, right, and I think that I didn't manage that time period well enough. I did the same thing that I do every summer, which is like go nuts, get on the ice, train, whatever. But then you get to school. And now when you're at school, you know, the season starts and I'm practicing, I'm in the gym, obviously, but we didn't have a goalie coach. We had a volunteer guy that would come in once a week. So it was extremely tough to kind of get ready for my season, which started in December. You know what I mean? Like, it was kind
Yeah.
of like bottom heavy in like July, August. I was like doing a bunch of stuff, June even. And then come to the start of school, like I August, September, October, November, it was like I wasn't doing nearly what I was doing before. So it was really hard adjustment. And granted, like I think that first weekend I played one game that first weekend that I was back, and it went really well. It was like a really good game, but I was also playing off like adrenaline.
Yeah.
And then from there it was like I just wasn't I just didn't feel like I was not in mid-season form in December. I was like in, beginning of the season form. And it was like, not only that, but I get into the season and then I play a game. And the next thing you know, we got another 2 weeks off for Christmas break. Like you know, it was very unusual circumstances. And then after Christmas break, I think I ended up playing like 7 or 8 games after that. I'm not sure, but that was hard because I mean the coaching staff, they start with the goalie, and I mean I'm not there for 12 games, and he's playing well, and then he's got another year to play, and I mean I understand like why would they put me in if I'm like I'm done after this season. This guy could get some more games under his belt to get ready for the next season.
Yeah.
Um, so again, that year was another year of being like really, really hard year. And it played on, I think I was like a mentally weak that year because I just wanted so bad to sign to play 20 games and have a great season and sign an NHL contract or an AHL contract. And that's all I was thinking about. Remember earlier I was telling you that when I was playing junior, my mindset was just like happy to be there and enjoy every moment. Well, at this point, like looking back now, that was not my mindset. My senior year was literally the end goal, like sign a contract. That's all I was thinking about. And because I wanted it so bad, but I went about it so wrong, you know? So I was extremely hard on myself in practice. Like every time I'd get a goal scored on me, I'd lose my mind. I was like, if I'm getting beaten practice right now, I'm going to get beaten a game,
Yeah.
but that's completely the wrong way to look at it. So I made a lot of mistakes, and that final year was hard, but again, I learned a lot about myself throughout that process, and it was I would say it got me ready for the following year of going, through some more adversity of being on 5 teams and bouncing around and whatever. It was like,
Yeah.
well, it can't be as bad as last year, so it kind of got me ready for it.
Yeah, for sure. So let's go on to the following year where you played in the East Coast Hockey League for we said earlier, South Carolina Stingrays, Idaho Steelheads, Manchester Monarchs, Brampton Beasts, and the Atlanta Gladiators. Like,
Yeah.
how do you think your first pro season went? Like, how do you stay positive despite being moved around a ton?
Well, obviously, as a goalie, like you're hoping that a team, like I had signed in South Carolina. I knew what I was getting into when I signed there, which was the coach had told me, Ryan Warsofsky, great guy. He was like, I have 2 guys coming back, but he's like, one of the guys is not playing how he should be playing. And he's like, if you come in and make the team and you're playing well, then I'll keep 3 goalies. I'm not afraid of keeping 3 goalies. So I was like, perfect. I'm like, that's exactly what I want to hear. That's like going back to my junior, before I went to juniors. It was like, we'll give you a shot. You'll be like another goalie at camp. But if you make the team, then you make the team. So I love that. I was like, perfect. I'm going to go there. I'm going to do my thing. And I believed in myself, and I wanted to prove myself right. So I get there. I make the team, start the season off. Now they have like a bunch of injuries, and we had another guy from South Carolina who's now living there. His name was Jeff Jakaitis. This goalie had an incredible pro season, incredible NCAA season, career. This guy was like 35 years old, I think. He wanted to play one more year, and so now we're 4 goalies because he has like a very credible pro career. Like if you look at his numbers, like the guy is legit. He's a great goalie.
Yeah.
I'm a young buck coming in. He's like an not old guy, but like, he's at the end of his career and he just wants to play one more year kind of thing, or 2 more years, whatever. So anyways, we start the season, we're like 4 goalies. And now granted, there's injuries in the American Hockey League, so 2 of the guys are up there, so we're down here. Then one guy gets sent down, so now we're 3 goalies. It was nuts. I make the team in September. Probably 3 weeks in, the injuries start getting, resolved. Guys getting back from injury, and I get released from South Carolina like 3 weeks, or maybe not 3 weeks, probably like a month and a bit in. So I get released. I'm like, what the heck am I going to do now? Like, I didn't even play a game, So anyways, talking with the coach, and he's trying to like move me somewhere, but nobody's picking me up naturally because I don't have any numbers. Like I have nothing. So I end up going back to school, to my school in Alabama. So I'm staying there with my girlfriend, and I'm trying to figure something out. And I'm like, skating because there's ice there, and I'm working out in the gym. And then one day I get a phone call from the head coach from South Carolina again, Ryan Warsofsky. He's like, hey, Carm, like, there's been another injury. We'd love to have you back. Like, I was like, perfect. I'm on the next flight. Like, so I get out there like the following day or whatever. And that weekend we're going on a road trip, and we're in Orlando, And out of nowhere, the coach was like, we practiced a few days, and he comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, you're playing this weekend." And I was like, "Oh shit!" I was like, "This is awesome." I finally get my first taste of whatever. So go to Orlando, have like an incredible game, even though we didn't win. We lost in a shootout. And I was like, honestly, I'm like thinking about the goals and stuff in the shootout, and I did not handle that shootout properly. I was just so eager to like get it over with and win. It was like I wasn't calm and relaxed. Like I just was the complete opposite of that. So they ended up scoring a goal on me. Their goalie like shut the door. Um, so yeah, we lost in that shootout, but I had an incredible game. And then that was my first game was probably like in December again. So it was, and then I ended up getting released again from South Carolina because the injuries, the guys came back from injury and now I'm getting released again. And then I ended up spending a month at home in Montreal, a month and a half. Nobody calling me. Obviously there's like SPHL teams trying to get me to go there, and I didn't want to play in the SPHL. Not that I think that I'm too good for the league. It's like not the case at all. I didn't want to get labeled as an SPHL goalie because I just wanted to play in the East Coast Hockey League and get a crack at the American Hockey League, where like an NHL team would like view me as like a legit goalie.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like that, and it's too bad, but that's how it is in hockey. Is like you get a label beside your name on elite prospect. You're like, there's SPHL beside your name, and like all of a sudden, like guys think that you can't play, but it's total bogus. Like I mean, and again, some guys actually prove that wrong. They play in the SPHL and they end up making it to the American Hockey League. Like it happens. Not many times, but it does. And then I was at home for like about a month, and I get a call from Idaho, and I go out to Idaho, and I played my first game in Idaho, and it didn't really go well at all. Like just like bad bounces. I was getting scored like these goals like ricocheting off of pads going in the net. Like I couldn't believe how the whole situation was going. I got pulled in the second period. We were losing like 4-1, I think, or something like that. So I get pulled in the second period. I play one game there, and I mean, the coach after the game, he's like, comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, Carm, like, don't worry, keep your head up. Like, you're gonna get another shot. You're a great goalie. All this." So that made me feel better. But then I think it was after that weekend. So I was probably spent like 2 weeks in Idaho. And after that weekend that I played on the Monday after practice, he calls me into the office and he's like, I have a chance to grab this goalie, and, he's on fire right now and we're going to trade you. I was like, what could I say to that? I loved Idaho, but okay. And I got traded to Manchester. Then I went to Manchester. I stayed there for about a week, literally a week. I was in Manchester for a week, and then so on, like very long season, but played in Brampton for two months, and then I was in Atlanta for a week or 2 weeks. I was in Atlanta, and funny enough, we're playing in South Carolina, so I'm like thinking the coach is going to let me play, and he doesn't. And we're getting absolutely torched that game. And then finally he, there's like 10 minutes left in the third period, and he's like, "Carm, get in net." And I'm like, what the heck?
10 minutes left.
Just throw me into the fire, why don't you? But anyway, so lucky enough, it went well. I got in there, didn't get scored on. So I guess you could say I got a 10-minute shutout there. And then literally right after the game, I don't even have my gear off. The coach is like, "Hey, Carm, come and see me." So I get into his office thinking he's telling me that I'm going to play the next game, which is like in a couple of days. he's like, I gotta let you go because uh, our goalie that's in the American Hockey League is coming down for the playoffs. I was like, what the heck? I literally just got here a week ago. I just jumped into this game. You know, for the 5 shots that I received, I played well. Like, I've been playing well in practice. Like, and I just get, and that's how it is. That's how the East Coast Hockey League is. It's a bit of like a meat market, man. Like if you end up sticking somewhere, and this is my advice to every goalie that wants to get a shot at the East Coast Hockey League. If you don't have an American Hockey League contract, you got to do your homework and find a team that literally that has an opening position in the East Coast Hockey League, that has that slot where you could go and legit be on the team. You can't go to a team that has 2 goalies already. You can't go on a team that already has guys signed in the American Hockey League that they're going to send down. You have to do. It's like literally an extensive research project. Like it really is, if you want to get a fair shot. And obviously I didn't do that, and that's what happens. Like you're bouncing around like crazy. So that year was an absolute nightmare. But at the same time, I was like, you know what? This every time I got released or I got traded, I was like, okay, this is something better is coming, you know. And
Yeah.
obviously that something better was not that season, but it was the following season going to France and having that year where I played every game. I played every game but 4. Now we only play 1 game a week in France, which I really didn't like. But again, like, had a lot of success in France, and that was fun.
Yeah, so let's go to that. So you played in France for Brest.
Yeah.
So what was it like playing in France and like playing the game in a different country compared to the States or Canada?
Well, it's very, very different. I mean, the ice is much bigger. There's it's I wouldn't say it's easier because like guys, the game is like way more skilled than it is like physical.
Yeah.
Um, and the problem with the league that I played in, this is what made it really hard, was you're playing against, like, I had a kid on my team that played in the KHL. I had guys on my team that played in, the top league in Finland, in the Liga. I had guys on my team that played in Sweden and like, the second tier league. Like these are all top, like really good leagues. Like the kid who played in the KHL, he was like 20, 21 years old, who had already played in the KHL. Like this kid was incredible,
Yeah.
incredibly talented guy. He just had like 9 concussions. So he's like, but I mean, the talent is there on the first 2 lines. Same thing on your D pairing. But when you have the first line of the other team playing against your third or fourth line, which are typically, like the bottom end team guys, like the
Yeah.
French guys,
Mm-hmm.
you have an absolute mismatch. It's like if you had like if you're playing hockey in the street against like a 5-year-old, that's what it feels like. It's so like the options, the plays and stuff, like they get done way easier. And as a goalie, now you have to kind of worry about every option on the ice versus like the immediate threat. So that was the toughest part, but um, it was a pretty decent league. But I would say like the biggest shock is the way that things are ran in other countries. Like you get that more of the semi-professional kind of vibe. Um, it's not necessarily like pro, like, the meals aren't like pro, the bus trips aren't pro. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of weird. It's kind of like semi-pro feel to it. Um, But again, it was cool. Like you're getting to live amongst like a different culture and you're learning stuff. It's I don't know, it's a cool experience.
Yeah, so you were very successful in France. You played 23 games, posting a 2.8 goals against average, and played 7 games in the playoffs. And you really didn't get this chance in the coast. So like, what was it like playing like pretty much all the games like you said, and playoff hockey in France? What was that like?
Well, it was good. Like I mean, the part of the reason why I went there was because the coach had told me that I'd play every game, you know. So I wanted to do that because I was telling myself if I could like have good numbers at the end of the year, then I could set myself up to move up a league or to move to a different country the following year in Europe. So that's the way I was viewing it. And then I didn't want to go back to the East Coast Hockey Leagues that year because of what I've been through the year before. Um, but that's the reason why I went there. Um, the playoff hockey was it was fun. Like I mean, every game in Europe, there's like the fans are crazy. It's like kind of like a soccer game. You get the chants the whole game, the drums, the like just it's just an
That's sick.
incredible like it's very different than North America. So that side of it was fun. And then you get into the playoffs and it's even crazier. Obviously, like the whole town pretty much is at the game, so it's like packed and it's fun. It was like a really really cool experience.
Yeah, did you guys do like the clap after the game and stuff like that?
Yeah, we would after every game we would skate around the rink and do that. We would clap, but like skate around the like take a like a victory lap. Or actually, we did that even when we lost, but we didn't lose many games that year.
That's sick. I
Yeah.
just see those celebrations on YouTube, and the crowd seems insane.
Well, they're very. I think that's a difference between American or North American sports and European sports. European people are so passionate about their own like um, their town's sport teams.
Yeah.
They're like when I was in France, we had a professional handball, women's handball team. And you should have seen this arena. It was absolutely incredible. Like it seated like 8,000 people. It was packed every night. And I'm not crapping on like women's handball, but it's not like soccer or it's not like hockey, but the people are super passionate about it. And to be completely fair, it's absolutely incredible to see these like they're great athletes, so it's cool. Like
Yeah, it just seems like everyone comes together, and like
yeah,
that whole like
there's
environment's insane.
exactly they're just so passionate. Like they work all week and they quite literally save up money for these nights. Like these are like the night out. That's like the treat. You go out, watch a game, go and have a beer after at the pub or whatever. Like that's what they like to do. It's an incredible experience.
That just seems so cool.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It really is.
Yeah, so then after your time in France, you retired and you became the goalie coach for St. Lawrence University. So like what was the process like become a goalie coach, and did you always want to be a goalie coach, or like what like particular level did you want to coach at?
Yeah, so like I mean, I was always a goalie coach from even the day that I quit hockey. I mean, when I was 17, 18, I started doing these goalie camps, I started coaching and stuff. And I was always very passionate about that side of the game, like the goalie coaching side of it, because I loved working with a goalie coach and trying new things. And I love to learn things. Like that was the coolest thing to me was like, oh, like I could position myself here and have to do less work. Like this saves me a lot of time. Like all of that stuff was I love to learn about that stuff. So I always knew that later on in my career, I didn't think it was going to be right after I retired, but I always knew that I wanted to be involved in some way, whether it be like an assistant coach or a goalie coach. I always had like that dream of being a NCAA assistant slash goalie coach. Just because of my time at UAH, I saw that we had a volunteer guy, and I thought that it would be so beneficial for a team to have an assistant coach who could also be a goalie coach, be there full time. And I just I was like, this is a dream job. I get to teach guys. I get to tell them about my story and guide them in the right direction, and how could I say this? Like, not have them do the same mistakes that I made, you know. And I mean, I made a lot of them. And I think the reason why I wanted to become a goalie coach was because of the mental side of the game that I think is so important. Like we were talking about earlier, a lot of guys, they come to the NCAA and you're just young, and your thinking process is not usually like the best. Some guys get
Yeah.
easily frustrated and stuff like that, and they need somebody to talk to, because goalies can't go and just talk to the head coaches. Like, it's not the same relationship. You can't go and talk to an assistant coach that doesn't know anything about goalies, because it truly is a different position. You need somebody that understands the position to talk to.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be that guy, and I was lucky enough to to get that opportunity with St. Lawrence. And like, I'm a volunteer goalie coach there, just to clarify. So I go there once a week, and I spend time with the guys, and we talk throughout the week. We do video, we work on different things, we try different things. Like, you know, I really enjoy it, and I hope that one day I could really be, could be my full-time thing.
Yeah, for sure. So as like a goalie coach, what is like the most important thing you try to like preach on your goalies at St. Lawrence?
Well, it's different. It's situational. It depends on the goalie. Some goalies have different things they need to work on. So I kind of, I guess, if I had to pick something that I preach, would be, work hard, have fun, and control what you could control. Like, those are, all of those things are controllable. Like, you could do all of these things. You could choose to control the controllables. You could choose to have a good attitude. You could choose to work hard, and you could choose to have fun. Like, and that just has to do with it's basically like your mental state, and obviously your physical state, but like, you have to be willing um to do the things that you can do. You can't control like your team scoring goals, like we were talking about earlier. So you can't worry about that stuff. And that's what I try to tell these guys. But again, going back to what I said earlier, it's easy to say and it's hard to do, but you got to do it. So it's also very hard, going there once a week.
Yeah.
It's not the same as being there full time, where you could really truly, like, I mean, really get to know the goalies on a personal level. you know I think when you start doing that, you could you can start like saying, okay, like, this guy has, maybe a confidence issue, and it comes from, you know I don't know, this part in his life, and maybe if we could fix that, he could, like, there's so many aspects that go into that.
Yeah, for sure. So I know in the future that I would love to become a goalie coach, and like I'm currently working on to become a pro goalie as well. Like
Yeah.
when it comes to like being like a goalie coach, like what are some tips that you'd have to like become like a goalie coach and help other goalies?
Well, I would say like get to know really try and get to know your goalies as best as you can because like I just explained, everyone's different and not everybody needs the same type of attention. It's all different. So you need to know your guys. You also need to know what you're talking about. You have to become kind of like obsessed with um, techniques and strategies and ideas. So you gotta be able to know your stuff like very well. Um, and I think the last thing is you have to be prepared. Like anything in life, whether you're trying to become a pro goalie or you're trying to become a goalie coach, like preparation is key. Like what are you gonna do in order to become a pro goalie? Like you have to prepare. You have to come out with a plan and say, I'm gonna train an hour a day off ice. I'm gonna get on the ice an hour a day. I'm gonna do some hand-eye coordination for like 5 to 10 minutes a day. Like those are all things that are in your preparation that will allow you to become a pro goalie. But it's the same thing with a goalie coach. Like you have to prepare your practices, prepare, what you need to work on, like prepare your even the subjects that you want to talk to your goalies about, whether it be techniques or like the mental side of the game. Like you have to prepare for that stuff to obviously in my situation, given that I'm a volunteer, I have to maximize time. So like preparation is key because I only get like an hour with them a week on the ice, right? But yeah, those are the biggest things I'd say, in
Yeah,
my opinion, anyways.
yeah, for sure. So thank you for those tips. Those I'll definitely use those to my advantage.
Yeah, man, you'll see. It'll literally help you. It will.
Yeah, for sure. So I have one more question, and
Yeah,
it's like I was telling you, good friend of the show, Jamie Phillips, and you had an
yeah.
epic triple OT game when you're at UAH, and he was at MTU. So can you go in depth of like what that game was like and how you felt like that, like going into triple overtime? How sick was that?
Yeah, so like prior to the game, we had literally that was the first time we made playoffs since I think 2010 was the last time UH made playoffs. So this was like 6 years later or something like that. Um, so prior to that game, I was like, I mean, I was jacked up. I was excited to play. Obviously, we're going against. I think they were top three in the country at that time. Excuse me. And so I'm like, this is unreal. This is fun. So before the game, what I did was I sent a message to my entire team, um, and I shared with them an experience that I had gone through my first year in Hawkesbury, where we were playing against the Carleton Place Canadians, and the Carleton Place Canadians had like 12, D1 commits, and they were just a powerhouse. And we were like a severe underdog. When I mean underdog, like we were supposed to get swept. But what ended up happening in that playoff series, best of seven, is that we swept them just because of the way the team rallied together. Everybody was in good spirits. Everybody was clicking. Everybody was playing well. And we swept them. We literally knocked out the team that was probably supposed to win the whole thing. So I shared that with my teammates before the game. And I was like, look, this happened to me once. We may be the underdogs by a long shot right now, but like we go into the game and handle our stuff. It's one game. Anything could happen. We had won games that year. So I'm like, it could happen. So we get into the game and like, I don't know, I'm just so excited to play. But at the same time, like, I guess a little nervous, but I wouldn't say I was like really nervous. It was just more of like I was excited to play. I was excited to win that game.
Yeah,
And the team, I gotta say, like the first two periods, like we were playing like pretty well. And even like even the third period we played pretty well. It's just like after a while, like you start. I mean, guys get tired, and it's completely normal. And like when you get tired, guys with skill, will kind of expose you. And they were obviously way more skilled than we were. And our team, the way we played was like really hard. Like if you were gonna beat us, like it was gonna be you were gonna get hurt. Like so obviously we didn't have much skills, but the guys gave it everything they had. So naturally, I mean, when we started getting in the late third period and like overtime and stuff, we were running out of gas. So I mean, I was getting a lot of shots, but at the same time, like I just had this mindset where it was like I just knew and felt that game that nothing was getting by me. I don't know what came over me, but it was just like I was laughing, I was having fun, and I was like, "There, man, there's no way they're scoring on me tonight. Like, there's just no way." And sure enough, like it was freaking crazy. Like I think at one point in like the second overtime, one of my teammates came down the wing and took a shot, and it went right past, like right through Jamie's like arm, and it trickled right along the goal line.
Oh,
Like if we would have scored, we would have won. Would have won. But the puck, like it just rode like the red line kind of, and then somebody came and cleared it. But I was like, oh my god, we're that close. Like it's gonna happen for us, And then going to, obviously we went into the third overtime, and I still at that point I was like, this is so fun. But I didn't even realize, to be completely fair with you, I had no idea what overtime we were in. I had no idea how many shots I had on me. At one point I glanced up and I was like, oh my gosh, like are they counting these right? Like this is crazy. And then it was probably like there's probably like a minute and 50 seconds to go in the third overtime, give or take. And they're in our zone, and like puck goes up to the point, like right up the wall, and the defenseman takes a shot from that angle. And there's a bunch of guys in front of me, like I mean a bunch of guys. And the puck like kind of trickles through, it bounces through, and it hits my pad, and it goes to the left of me. And I see one of their guys that's literally just hanging out there by himself, skating in. And I was pretty far away from it, but I dove, and obviously looking back now, I'm playing it in my mind. I shouldn't have dove. I should have like probably tried to, just power slide as hard as I could to get there. But I dove, and it literally just went right past my blocker. Like I'm telling you, like I almost hit it. Like went right past my blocker and in the net. And that was devastating. We were going into the fourth overtime. Like I don't know what the longest game is in the history of the NCAA, but
it has to be up
had
there.
they not scored that goal and we went in the fourth overtime, like that could have been like it was like a never ending game. Like they weren't scoring, we weren't scoring. He was playing well and I was playing well. Like it was just, and then when guys start getting more tired, like obviously the shots start coming from further out and they're not as dangerous, and it's like kind of easier to save. It
Yeah.
takes that one crappy bounce for it to go in. So that's how the game went, and it was pretty devastating. I mean, till this day, like everybody, gets brought up pretty often that I had like that performance, but it's great. It's great and I'm happy about it, but at the same time I'm not, because we didn't win that game. And
Yeah.
like, that would have been the winning the game was the goal. Making 76 saves was the cherry on top. It wasn't necessarily like, I don't really care for it. There's getting that first win in playoffs for UAH and like, whatever it is, 10 years. That's the accomplishment that would have been nice,
Yeah, for sure. So, what would you do for like recovery, like between like all the overtimes? Like, you have to be running out of energy at that point. Like, what do you do
We were
to?
taking some at the time, like it's weird because when you're playing a game like that, you don't feel I didn't feel tired. I felt like I could keep going and like I would keep going until we won. Um Naturally, like you're sweating a ton, so you start getting cramps here and there, but I kept hydrating, and then we had these electrolyte capsules. Like instead of drinking Gatorade or whatever, I would just take an electrolyte capsule, and I think I took one in between, like probably like the second and third overtime. Like I don't even know. I didn't even like. I just took it because at that point I was like, okay, if I don't take something, I'm gonna start literally like seizing up. So I didn't do anything special. The next day is kind of what killed me because we played again, right? We played on the Saturday, and I think we only lost like 3-1 with the open net goal of that game, and that was another like 40 something shots. But I remember just getting dressed for the game, and I put my skates on, and my ankles like were kind of sore. I was wearing like these graph skates that I had for like about a year, and the inside were pretty worn out. But me not playing on adrenaline and all of that, I didn't really feel it the night before. But I put my skates on and I get out on the ice for warm up, and I try and take a stride, and I had like really bad ankle bruises on like my all four of my ankle bones. Like they were just bruised like crazy because of my skates. So I get off the ice like 5 minutes into warm up, and I try to stuff like some sponges or whatever, but it just wasn't working. Like it was just so painful. I couldn't even go down my butterfly. So I tell my coach, I'm like, Coach, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I can't play like I literally can't do a T push. I can't get into my butterfly. I can barely get in my goalie stance. So we're like trying to find a solution with the donuts and all the sponges and everything. Nothing's working. So like the trainer's like, well, I could I could inject you with something and like you won't feel it. It's like do whatever you gotta do. Like I want to play this game. Like if this means that I'm gonna be able to go get into my butterfly and not feel a thing, then do it.
Yeah,
So he gives me like two needles into my ankles, and like 2 minutes after, like I guess it hits me, and I'm like, okay, I can't feel the bottom of my legs at all. Couldn't feel my toes. Couldn't feel anything. So I was like, this is awesome. Get in there, and had like another really really good performance that night. Like really good game. And the next day after that game, I I wake up and I like try to step out of bed, and at this point my ankles are so bruised, like they're just blue, like everything, my whole like everything's blue because like my what happened was my ankles were rubbing up against. I had no more padding on the inside of my skin. It was like plastic. So
yeah,
like when I was going into a butterfly or whatever, it was just like on plastic. And I tried to get out of bed. I couldn't even put any pressure on both of my feet. It was insane. Like I didn't think that could happen. But so anyways, I ended up going back home with two losses and a pair of crutches. So
yeah,
nice trip to Michigan Tech.
yeah. What did you have to like crawl out of bed and when you couldn't feel your legs or like what happened there?
Yeah, I mean, I got out of bed, and like I was like holding on to everything to like walk. And like my roommate was like, "What the heck's wrong with you?" I'm like, "Dude, I swear to God, I cannot stand on my feet. Like it's so bad." And sure enough, like my ankles were mangled. And honestly, it didn't get it didn't get resolved for another like 2 or 3 weeks. It was like so bad that I couldn't run, I couldn't do anything, and it was just because like they started swelling really bad too. Like so, it was just like I don't know, it was crazy. I'm like call my trainer. I'm like, dude, I need crutches because I can't freaking put any pressure on my legs.
Yeah,
So
I can't imagine the pain that felt. Like just getting back on the ice, like my feet were not used to it, and like my feet would start to hurt right away.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
can't imagine going through 2 games of like 77 shots and then 40, and then
yeah. It
I
was
just
like
can't imagine that.
it was essentially we played 3 games in the span of like it was like literally less than 24 hours. We played 3 hockey games, so it was like crazy. And that was just me being dumb that year. I had like brand new pair of skates that I didn't want to use because I was so used to these other ones, and I paid the price for it. That's what happened. So after that time, I was like, I'm never doing this again. Every year, I have a new pair of skates. I'm wearing a new pair of skates every year because you can't imagine the pain of like think about it. If you were to put on your skates and tied them right now and took all the padding out of like the ankles, and then you go on the ice and just try to go down into your butterfly on hard plastic, like it's nuts. Like it's absolutely crazy. But
Yeah,
I paid the price for it. I guess they really wore out that game.
yeah,
So,
for sure. So, Carmine, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate your time, and I want to wish you the best of luck with goalie coaching and in life. This was a blast.
thanks, man. I really appreciate you doing this. This was really fun, and I wish you the best of luck as well. Hopefully, you could accomplish what you want to do in being a pro goalie and also a goalie coach. Um, but yeah, keep doing these, man. I'm gonna start following these and listening to them.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
So that'll do it for this episode. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Carmine, for coming on to the show. I had a blast. It was nice talking goaltending with you and goalie coaching and all that. So thank you guys so much for listening or watching. And don't forget to follow our Instagram at On the Spot Sports with underscores between each word. So on underscore the underscore spot underscore sports. And listen to all these episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts at On the Spot Sports. And we'll see you guys later. Peace.